In quiet, steady tones, this record begins with the same caution that follows every story connected to Jeffrey Epstein. The woman known in public records as Sarah Kellen Vickers appears not through rumor, but through paper, old police reports from Palm Beach, Florida, court filings from the Southern District of New York, and investigative journalism from national outlets that pressed for transparency after 2018. All of this episode stays within those written lines. Nothing beyond what can be checked is included. Each statement is based on a source that exists in the public domain. According to those documents, Sarah Kellen served as one of several women who helped arrange the daily workings of Epstein's homes in Palm Beach and New York during the early 2000s. Source: Palm Beach Police Report, 2006. In police interviews cited in that report, workers described her maintaining schedules, recording contact lists, and greeting visitors. The publicly released FBI summaries also listed her name among household staff associated with Epstein. Source: FBI 302 Summary, 2009. Flight manifests entered as court exhibits show that she traveled on Epstein's private plane multiple times between 2002 and 2004. Source: Court Exhibit Flight Logs, 2019. None of these records constitute an accusation on their own. They only confirm employment and association. When Epstein faced Florida and federal investigations in 2006 and 2007, the result was a controversial non-prosecution agreement in 2008. That document listed 4 women as potential co-conspirators, including Sarah Kellen. Source: U.S. v. Epstein, NPA, 2008. The agreement explicitly stated that these persons shall not be criminally prosecuted in this matter, leaving their status uncertain. No record shows she was charged in Florida or in any federal court since then. Years later, she would tell reporters through attorneys that she was herself a survivor of Epstein's abuse and not a willing participant. Source: New York Times, 2019, Vanity Fair, 2020. That claim, like the rest of the file, remains unresolved in law, but documented in print. Civil litigation revived her made him again after Virginia Giuffre's lawsuits against Ghislaine Maxwell became public. Complaints filed in 2015 and 2016 repeat previous allegations that Kellen acted as an assistant who booked appointments and organized travel, while emphasizing that all claims were as alleged. She did not appear in those proceedings and gave no sworn public testimony. The statements remain second-hand within civil records. Source: Giuffre v. Maxwell, 2015 filings. For investigators re-examining Epstein's network after his 2019 arrest, these civil documents became footnotes in a sprawling case file that grew beyond him to include anyone named in old agreements or logs. Source: SDNY Press Release, July 2019. None of these, however, actually meant that Sarah Kellen would be charged. And as of 2024, no criminal case has been brought against her. Publicly accessible property and marriage records show that she married professional race car driver Brian Vickers in 2013. Since then, she has largely avoided media contact. Occasional photographs surface in stories marking updates on the Epstein estate litigation, but her own statements stop at written responses through lawyers, noting that she has cooperated where required and has not been charged. Court archives through 2024 confirm her name connected only to past civil claims. Source: SDNY Archive, 2024. Between law and the public eye, her story sits in an uncomfortable middle ground. Some documents portray her as an organizer for Epstein, others as a young woman working under his control and fear. Journalists who interviewed former employees found contradictory portraits. A person who obeyed Epstein's instructions without argument, yet someone others believed was trapped in the same system. Source: Miami Herald, 2018. Historians call such figures liminal, caught between possible culpability and possible coercion. Without a court process, no definitive conclusion exists. In 2020, the Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands filed civil suits against Epstein's estate, naming an administrative group of associates believed to have handled finances and scheduling. Source: U.S. Virgin Islands Civil Complaint, 2020. Among those named in paragraph 84 was Sarah Kellen, listed as a former executive assistant. No criminal claims followed, and the mention served only to map connections for asset tracing. By 2023 and 2024, that case remained focused on estate administration. References to individuals like Kellen were largely removed from active proceedings. In simpler terms, she is a name in documents, not an indicted figure. Every major report about her repeats the same legal sentence: she has never been charged with a crime. This line, printed dozens of times across news outlets, illustrates why reporting on Epstein's orbit remains delicate. It is possible to reproduce what has been verified, dates, roles, court mentions, but not to manufacture verdicts that do not yet exist. For this series, the difference matters. Accuracy outlasts emotion. The duty is to present facts without assuming intent. The case against Epstein ended in his death, but documentation about his circle is still being reviewed by agencies and civil courts. Among those names, Sarah Kellen remains present simply as recorded context. Today, she lives a quiet life. Occasionally, her representatives release brief statements to correct online claims or false rumors. As with many people once orbiting powerful figures, privacy has become her defense. Yet, because of freedom of information laws and institutional correspondence preserved during Epstein-related litigation, her name will likely remain in archives for future academic and legal quotation. It is part of a trail that shows how an entire administrative structure sustained a predatory network, and how those structures are later dissected by law and media. This narration ends where the law does: no verdicts, only records. From police reports to civil filings, the outline of Sarah Kellen's presence is traceable. Her motives and fate are not. Her story illustrates how the Epstein scandal extends beyond a single man into questions of labor, control, and responsibility. This episode remains strictly neutral. Every claim is sourced, every uncertainty acknowledged. Until and unless a court of law rules otherwise, Sarah Kellen stands as a person named in public documents, disputed in narratives, and presumed innocent under law. That is where the record stops, and so must the story.